call me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god. Let's go.
Hey, what's happening, all you damn dirty apes? Look at Jess. Caught in the headlights by that one.
I am. I didn't hear any sound for the intro, and now I'm like paranoid that nobody can hear us.
Oh. They should be able to hear us.
Okay.
I can hear you, and I checked my sound. The reason I was late is because I had to check my sound. So,
Hey, Zach.
hi, Zach. Hi. Well, John's not actually there, I don't think. I think that's from earlier.
He was in earlier, yeah.
But, all right. So, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this. So, today, Jess, early this morning, sent me a link to a video. What is it? Talk over tea or something? What's the name of it?
Truth over tea, I think.
Truth over tea is the name of the channel, and it's linked in the description. There's a link to the video that we're watching here too.
Yes.
Now, this has to be, I think, one of the worst takes on evolution, and that's counting like Kent Hovind even. This is really bad, and
it is.
I feel like it was on purpose too. Like there was like some willful ignorance going on here.
So there's two people here, right? And
Yeah.
both of them seem to do content for the channel. And I was watching one with the one guy that had called into the line, and he was going with Matt Dillahunty over the Kalam.
Yeah.
And then the one that I was just watching was with the other guy from the one that we're going to watch. And he was like, I have the same degree as Bill Nye. Therefore, it is valid for me to go up against a geology thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah. This is, I have to say, like, it's weird because it's that apologist top, like, I'm going to use a bunch of big words and sound fancy. Yeah. But at the same time, they did really, really bad. So, all right, let's just go ahead and, this is just a straight up, this is the video that's on their channel. So, I may have to skip around a couple times. Not much though, because it's continuous stupid. I did invite,
I want to say hi to Trees and to Tori as well.
Oh, hi Trees and Tori, how are you? I did actually, within a couple minutes of watching the video, left a comment saying, I'm going to cover this video today. If you want to join and talk about it, here's my email. And, you know, and as of a couple minutes before we went live, there was no email. So,
okay. If there does happen to be, I'm happy to step out if you guys want to actually discuss it, because some of it will probably be over my head. So,
well, I mean, I don't know. This is pretty simple stuff. They screw up the basics. I guess there are some parts of it where it gets a little complex, but not much. All right, let's just go. So. Okay.
I'm making your life difficult already.
Welcome back to Truth Over Tea YouTube. It's great to be back
Thank
on.
you.
Great to see you guys. So today what we'll be doing
Great
is
to see you.
we'll be reviewing this video from Forrest Valkai, who's a pretty prominent atheist. He's a biologist, puts out a lot of videos on YouTube, and he's also on The Line sometimes, which is an atheist call-in talk show.
Shout
Where
out to
they
the
ask
line.
theists or Christians to call in, and then they try to refute some of their claims. So we'll be reviewing one of his videos, which is about evolution and how to teach evolution to creationists. That's really what his video is about. So yeah, welcome. Take a seat.
Yeah.
And remember, get some tea. You have to join us. So I have today a strange combination. I have this is Earl Grey with chaga, which is a mushroom, and ashwagandha tea. And so ashwagandha is like supposed to like relax you, and then the Earl Grey, gives you some caffeine. So I'm thinking, oh, I'll put both of them together, and maybe chaga helps me think better. So we'll see.
No.
Yeah, I'm
No,
just
no.
drinking oolong tea, so
I hate oolong tea.
pure caffeine. I guess
sorry,
it
Adam,
is
you're
kind of
watching.
calming for me
No.
to drink caffeinated drinks. That's why I drink coffee, because coffee does give me energy, but it's also calming. Hey, what's up, Pastor Chris? I see Pastor Chris in the chat here.
That's
So,
awesome. Let me see.
yeah.
Nice. There he is. Awesome.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the stream. So to follow up on what Brendan said, we're pretty much going to go over just to start, actually, before summarizing what we're going to go over. This distinction between creation and evolution, I feel like, has been way drawn out. It's like this ancient debate that doesn't need to be a debate, because evolution is kind of an ambiguous term. There's lots of different meanings to evolution. Evolution doesn't necessarily have to mean
Wrong.
I was pretty sure that it had to do with changes in allele frequencies to populations over time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're talking about biological evolution. We're not talking
Right.
about some colloquial use of the word evolution.
No.
Where you can say, like, my thought process has evolved, or,
No. Strictly biological. And
right.
that has that definition. That's interesting.
Right. And there's a reason he does this. It comes up later.
Really have to mean this modern synthesis or neo-Darwinian evolution. There's just lots of different ways it can be interpreted. And there are many Christians today, although you and I don't agree with them, that all.
So biological evolution has a set of mechanisms, and there's not one of the reasons that we use specific terms in science is so that people know what we're talking about, and it's not left up to your interpretation. While you interpret everything, whether it's literal or some other way, that part's true, but there's not all these various interpretations of evolution. There's mechanisms, there's terms, there's it's not just up to you to decide how it works.
Your own truth of evolution in your heart.
Yeah. The theory, I mean, if we're talking about the theory of evolution and not under whatever host of term or definitions that this person, Adam, has assigned, but biological evolution has a definition. Jess gave it. That's it.
Are faithful Christians that believe in theistic evolution, which is essentially the same timeline as modern synthesis and or neo-Darwinian evolution. So it's funny that this seems to be it is still pushed by Christians, this whole evolutionists and creationists, but you can believe in evolution and believe in creation. So ultimately what you'll see as we get later in the stream.
See, I disagree with that statement, actually. I think evolution is problematic for Christianity altogether.
I
But
think that they have to jump a lot of hurdles to try and get where they're trying to get to combine what we know scientifically in the modern world versus what some goat herders knew
Yeah.
in the Bronze Age.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, please continue.
No, I want your input.
Yeah, but I also forget what I'm saying mid-sentence because I had a smoke.
I do that all the time. So they right, but there are Christians that believe or accept evolution. That's true. Just worded funny.
Is that this is going to boil down much deeper than the supposed debate between creation and evolution. It's going to ultimately be a debate between naturalism and theism slash deism. For the purposes of this video, we are not going to be defending deism, although deism in some places can be also in the same boat as theism for the types of arguments we may make. We are Christians, so obviously we believe in theism as opposed to deism, but just wanted to make that distinction.
Do they defend theism in this video? Because I thought they just attack evolution.
I don't know. I didn't watch the entire video either because you had said that you wanted to review it, so I was going to wait and at least watch.
Yeah. I mean, I know they talk about like a few things like Christians, not all of them are creationists or whatever.
Right.
But they don't.
Or at least not all of them are young Earth creationists.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess there's parts of it that could be considered that I've seen. So
Yeah.
I haven't watched all of it, so we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be sure, when you say modern synthesis or neo-Darwinism, those are just more modern terms for evolution.
No.
When we say that,
No.
No,
that's
they're
what we're
not.
just trying
They're
to.
terms that you made up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that like alternative facts?
Alternative rectally sourced statistics, sir.
Yeah. Those are well, again, we have very specific terms in science, and there are some that are interchangeable with others, but for the most part, like if you're using that different term, it's because you're talking about something else,
Mm.
or at least some extra detail that isn't there. But I don't know why. I don't know why they insist on doing this, like trying to play word games from the very beginning. But
Yeah.
Do justice to what they call evolution today. And I see Pastor Chris says that creation reveals there is a creator. God did it as he said. He spoke all into existence. Right. And so you could just believe that. And though we disagree with them, you could then take that and say that God used evolution afterwards. And you still arrive. You could still be a Christian and believe that. It's just we believe there are issues with doing that. And there's evidence in science, there's scriptural evidence that's an issue with that, but technically you can do that. And it is true that some Christians do this, but a lot of atheists also drive this wedge and say, oh man, you definitely, it's evolution against creationism, so
Right.
it's not quite explained properly.
so I have never, in fact, I say all the time that it's not my job to defend evolution or to teach you evolution, that like you're the one making the
Yeah.
extraordinary claim.
It is the
And
leading explanation.
yeah. So usually if I'm talking about evolution, it's because you've said something uh, completely wrong about it in order to support or you think it supports your God belief.
Yeah.
There is no enemy thing between creation and evolution. One of them is religious dogma and doctrine that is unsupported nonsense, and the other is proven science, proven used loosely there. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know why all this like setting it up this way. Like they're it's a thing. Yeah, no. We agree those are a thing. We just
The way that he's using them as though like how they throw evolutionist around.
yeah,
It felt very much like that.
yeah. because the talk that they're responding to from Forrest is about evolution. It's not about those other things.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Not only, it's really just more of a rhetorical tactic nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, let's go ahead and get in. Let me get this pulled up here. And also chat, if you guys could, let me know if you guys hear the video. We so daringly chose not to double check that the sound was working before we
Oh man. Oh man.
So
I hope
let's
it's working.
see. I'll start it like a couple
What
seconds.
convention
early
was
just to
this
see.
for? Was this just the,
Can you
the
hear
most
Frank?
recent one that
Evolution
he went
really
to?
is and how
I
it
can hear
works
it.
and the
Oh,
arguments
this
that we have
was,
about it. Like, for example,
In chat.
Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember what this was.
Was it the one in not Wisconsin? Starts with an M. I never remember all your states.
Montana. I don't know. This happened a while back though. I remember that there was the other guy that we watched part of a thing. The other guy gave a talk about arguing with theists. Was a
Forrest is
I don't know.
going to
But
be a
there were
Bob.
other speakers
by
that
the
I've
way.
seen videos from this event.
Just let us know if you guys can't hear it. Let me turn it up a little bit here.
Yeah.
Here, I'll just put it all the way. Okay.
this video from a group called Genesis Apologetics, where we have these two kids named John and Jane as they try to discredit common evolutionary themes and arguments.
Is it just me, or is it impossible to line up animals in the way they evolved?
Then this one right there, this guy there, this one right next to that, just like that.
So these are transitional fossils.
Yeah.
It'll come up later. But
I would also like all of those to be able to put on screen or just have behind me like Erica does. I love those.
yeah, those are super cool.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay.
I've been making this series on and off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and we could add a little context, but it's just he's lining up these skulls and he's saying, "Wow, creationists, look, we have direct evidence for evolution right here. All you need is, show that fossils look similar. And it's the argument from homology to say, well, things have similar traits, therefore, one evolved into the other. But you kind of see what I'm saying here, the way I say it, that doesn't necessarily follow. Just because things look similar doesn't mean one begat the other, right? If you think of a design example, there could be different cars.
Okay. Before we attack the cars thing, first of all, this is more than just things look similar, right? There are traits that are being passed on and then changes taking place. Small changes over time, which is pretty much the definition of evolution.
Yeah.
So it's not that these skulls prove evolution. It's that evolution predicts you'll find these transitional fossils, and you do. That's the important part, the novel testable prediction. So
I think they forget that part.
I mean, and they're going to get into this cars thing here, which is a Donnie special.
It is.
The same manufacturer that all look similar, that have similar characteristics, maybe from that specific designer. However, that doesn't mean one car. That's crazy, but that's the point.
Just use common characteristics or whatever, But even more than that, he's acting like similarity in fossils necessitates that one thing evolved into the other. When even in evolution, they don't fully believe that.
He didn't say that, and
He's very quiet for me. I'm glad you could hear him better than I could.
something's going on with his audio. He
Yeah.
like, his mic messed up or something, or he backed away from something happened there. But this thing with cars, we know the people that design cars. We know the process that they use to do it. We don't see that in nature.
No.
There's no builder required for trees. There's not, like that. It's just, it's an equivocation fallacy. I think that would be my guess.
Yeah.
But
I don't like the cars thing.
it's stupid.
Old.
Well, again, it's you're trying to equivocate two things that are not anywhere near the same. Like cars are not biological; they don't reproduce. They don't have mutations that cause their change.
No.
It's not the same thing in any way whatsoever.
We've talked before, Adam, about convergent evolution.
Yeah.
You have a lot of animals that, although they look very, very similar, evolutionists think they don't have a common ancestor. They're not related in any way, or at least any local way, any close way. And a good example would be comparing all marsupial mammals with all placental mammals. So like a mouse.
Hey, Bren.
Yes.
It sounds like your mic cut off. I thought I wasn't sure if it was my headphones.
Okay, they do address it.
Yeah.
The sound's just coming into the
Can you hear me now?
computer as opposed to your mic.
Can you hear me now?
No, I think your mic turned off. Either it was unplugged or it was like disconnected, and now the sound's coming in just from your computer as opposed to the mic.
Oh, I see what's happening. Give me a minute. Maybe if I unplug it and re-plug it in. There's always some kind of technical difficulty. That's always something,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Try to change the sound when you go to the sound selection. Make it come from your mic as opposed to.
There you go.
And if you can't figure it out in the next couple seconds, just keep going. You'll just have to speak up some.
We need some weight music.
It wouldn't be a Can't Hoban video without this.
We have some similar sound issues sometimes, so I'm not going to begrudge them their sound issues.
Maybe.
Yeah, while I figure this out, I was just saying that you have, hold up. No, that's not doing it. Okay, you just have a lot of animals that look similar that evolutionists don't consider to actually be related. And a good example would be when you compare marsupial animals with placental ones. Like there's a wombat.
Are they getting basically into a marsupial thing now? Is that what's happening here? Like they're kind and then trying to make sense in their own way that's outside of like the phylogenetic tree? I'm just trying to follow their line of thinking.
Well, they're trying to use. Okay, they're trying to use phylogeny against evolution.
Which is a weird way
that what they're trying to say that Forrest setting up these skulls is the same as two animals that look similar but are actually not closely related, which we do see a lot of that. But again, they're not. They're not. Again, they're not this closely similar, and they're also they're not. It's there's other ways that we can determine the relationship between particular animals, and figure
Yeah.
out when the last common universal ancestor
I'm
was.
That's so true, because I'm reading a book right now. I do have it up here.
Like universal
Walking
common.
with Whales.
Yeah.
From Land to Water in 8 Million Years. It's the anthropologist or archaeologist that found the Pakicetus, the cetacean inner ear,
Yeah.
as a transitional species back in like the 80s, I think. It had to do with Desert
Oh.
Storm. I don't know when the 80s or when that was. I'm fairly
It was in the
clueless.
90s, 1994.
90s? Okay. Sorry, I don't know where I got very excited about being able to show off my book that my girlfriend got me.
Well, so what they did here is they took their equivocation fallacy, and now they're arguing against the straw man they made using it. So
Yes.
that they made it, they said this is the problem, which wasn't a problem, and now they're arguing for that problem, which I mean I get, but it's still just it's not actually both, but it's yeah.
Groundhog, right?
Yeah.
The same thing as a groundhog. It's just it has a pouch on the outside, and its babies, after they're born,
Not the same.
they go into the pouch for a while, and that's where they can be raised, until they're big enough to come out and not be on mom's milk anymore. Dang.
Well,
Same thing happens with the there's a wolf. There's it's now extinct, but the marsupial thylacine.
yeah.
And it's a wolf, but it has a pouch. And because of that, they assume, even though it's similar in every.
Yeah.
Isn't a thylacine like a? I thought it was related to a hyena or a Tasmanian devil or something like that.
Yeah. It's not. Well, and that's what they're saying is that they look similar, but they're not. They're not closely related. That's actually the point they're making. But the problem here again is that we don't. That's not how we determine that. Like
No.
there is so if the case is that evolution is only built around things look the same, therefore they're related, then why is the thylacine not related to the wolf as closer than it is? Like they're kind of making my point for me here.
Yeah.
Every other thing, it's not related to a regular wolf, right? So technically, just bringing fossils up like he did doesn't necessarily mean, even in evolution, that those creatures, one evolved into the other. It doesn't mean that, because you could put a thylacine skull right next to a wolf skull, and they would look incredibly similar.
Yeah.
Right. So
okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry. My issue is, I mean, I could put a random monkey skull next to another type of a monkey skull, or sorry, I'm getting a little off track here. Their reasoning doesn't make sense to me.
No, because they're actually making the point for it here.
Yeah.
They're showing that just because two things look the same or have similarities doesn't necessarily mean they're closely related.
No.
And they're making that point here. And they're actually showing, because Forrest showed those skulls, they're actually demonstrating that, if you can't do it for this reason, then there must be other reasons that they are. And there are, and it has to do with dates and locations and environments and all that stuff. Like there's never, we don't classify the relationship between different species based solely on what they look like or how similar they look to the naked eye, and also what you see, like what you're looking at as a not professional in this field is quite different from the way that a professional biologist sees these things, right?
Well, that's the thing, because like they go into the osteology and everything when they've got the skulls, and there's not just dating machines and stuff like that, but measuring and digital scans that go into everything. And there's just so many things that I find that would be important to somebody trying to break open, oh no, evolution's not real. The thing that we've been passing around the world's not real. By the way, I'm a mechanical engineer. But that's what Bill Nye has, so we're forgiving me for speaking outside of my field.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Again, that doesn't make you Bill Nye.
I have a feeling he kind of wants to be the creationist Bill Nye.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
impression.
he says a lot of wrong things with a lot of confidence here. But you know, but
Yeah.
but anyway, they're making the point. They just don't. They're bad at this, and they don't realize it.
So there you go.
Well, and so the philosophical aspect I would bring to this, let's say we did have similarity. It could almost appear like they could be some sort of ancestry, but that doesn't necessitate its ancestry. We always kind of assume that there's no way.
No one said it does, and
No.
philosophy doesn't trump hard evidence.
No. Who is it? Someone has a philosophy of science degree in either like the ICR or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, that's a science degree. And everyone on the other side is like, no, that's a philosophy degree, sir.
Yeah.
There is a huge and vast difference between the two.
Yeah. So they've kind of now they've constructed this straw man where it's
Yes.
like, oh well, Forrest is just saying these because these things look similar. And they put a bunch of words in his mouth he didn't say at all. He just said, "Here's the order," is all he said. He didn't say any of that other stuff. And now they're arguing against that straw man they've made. It's
I need to draw attention to this. Where did it go? Hold, please.
They bring up Stephen Meyer in a minute.
No. Zach said, "All hail Lord Attenborough," and I have to say yes. Prehistoric Planet is fantastic, and everyone should watch it.
Yeah, definitely. No, I was just answering Ember too. They bring up Stephen Meyer here in a few minutes.
That, like, especially from the naturalist perspective, there's no creator, right? So that's kind of the go-to. That's the best option you have. Whereas under theism, under Christianity, we can say that we have a design.
Also, naturalism doesn't say there's no creator. That's not that's not a thing. Naturalism. I hate the word naturalism. I think it's the stupidest way to we all agree that natural things exist, and then you want to slap this label on it, and it's like a weird type of trying to put a negative connotation on it.
The thing is, when Adam called in to the line, he went on and told Matt that he was a naturalist, that Matt was a naturalist, and Matt was like, "I've been doing this for 20 years. Why do you people not get that I am not a naturalist?"
Well, I think the thing is he was trying to say that Matt was a philosophical naturalist.
Yeah, philosophical rather than methodological, for sure.
Yeah. Which is different. And the fact that he immediately goes to, oh well, philosophically speaking, when we're talking about actual evidence that was there, like physical evidence you can put your hands and eyes on and study and all those things, and he goes to, well, philosophically this is wrong, and it's like nobody said that, nobody did any of that. He showed skulls,
do
no, this is I feel like this is a one of the philosophy guys. I don't know though. I can tell you I will be watching more of this person's content though.
Yeah,
Um,
same. Obviously, as I have watched a couple today just to kind of get an idea.
yeah. All right.
designer in that's similar, right? We have the same designer, and so because of that, there's a similar design to each of the creation of God.
Okay. So you just sat there and spent a whole bunch of time talking about how evolution wasn't the case, and now they're all similarly designed, and you can attribute evolution to God.
And that leads me down that whole baraminology route again, where I want to look more into that and how they're classifying kinds within that, and see if maybe he's coming at it from that perspective.
Right. Well, I think with cons, they'll they either use it as species or family usually.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's hard to tell because again, that's why in science we use specific terms. That way, it's not this ambiguous like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Crap. So
And so that, of course, that's why we all are composed of cells. That's why we have many similar attributes of many different respects, even to humans and fish, right? There are going to be similar aspects because we have a common designer.
why
Esther.
why would your God be limited to making fish have the same thing he makes humans out of? And also, you made a whole bunch of claims there um, about an opposing idea, only you didn't support it with anything like, I don't know, a bunch of skulls across the screen showing the actual
Like
steps.
cranial capacity change.
Doesn't make you wrong, but yeah, not a good look.
Right. And some
Yeah.
people say, well, you always say common design. That's how do you know that? Well, we're going to use inference the same way you would use inference to develop something like Darwin's evolutionary theory.
Wrong. Do you know why that's wrong, Jess?
No, I got distracted again.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So
I'll be better in the future, teacher.
no,
Sorry.
you're fine. You're fine. You are not at any.
This is why I never host things. I'm ridiculous.
It's fun this way. It's okay.
Okay.
You don't owe me an explanation for the stupid things this guy says. Um, so he said that we use inference to come to the common designer conclusion, just the same as they did with Darwinian evolution. And I think the word you're looking for is evidence. And
I was going to
yeah,
say it's not inference though. It's the leading explanation.
so when you make inferences in science, which
Yeah.
there are some cases where that's somewhat acceptable, but even then they try to prove that thing, or well, they try to support that thing with evidence. Um, but it's not the same at all because you're inferring this because you're post hoc rationalizing your book with
Mm-hmm.
with evolution. You're trying to, how far do I have to take evolution apart for it to work with my book? And then you're
Yes.
trying to use that and co-opt it into your narrative.
Yes.
That's not inference, it's post hoc rationalization, which is a fallacy. And it's also stupid. It's not the same thing in any way whatsoever. Whenever those inferences in science are usually in the form of predictions, they're not. It's not just, oh look, well we can infer this. Sometimes there's things that are necessarily inferred, which is a
Is
different
that
thing because they're bound by laws and different
is
things.
that where they made that prediction? We're gonna go here, find Tiktaalik. We're gonna know where to go, what layer to find it in, in Nunavut, I think. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah. So because of what we learned about evolution, they were able to make that prediction. That was what is similar to their inference, right? Um, Only they're basing theirs off of a preconceived conclusion, and it's not an inference; it's a prediction because there is no preconceived conclusion. It's if this thing is true, we should find this here uh, at this depth with these particular traits. Um,
Yes.
uh, Much more powerful than just a my book says a thing, and so I look at it this way.
Tree says Your Inner Fish by
Yeah.
Neil Shubin is a great book about Tiktaalik. Oh, I might have to look that one up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Reasoning and induction. So that there's no reason to immediately assume one way. We should weigh both aspects. And maybe so just something to think about.
Well, again, it depends on if you're starting back where Darwin was, then yeah, you have two competing ideas. You should look for evidence to support these
Oh, yeah,
different
for
ideas,
sure.
and but if you're starting from now, which is where I'm starting from, I don't know about you, but
Try to, yeah.
no, these are not equal things,
No.
and this is the big trick that creationists often play, uh, where they want to say that my ideas are just as plausible as these scientific theories and uh, things we observe in nature, and it's obviously not. It's not the same again. I'm going to cleanse my filthy chupacabra hide while I listen from the shower. Well, don't
Go
cleanse
to.
it too hard; you'll go blind. All right.
That's a really good point because nobody
No.
observed evolution happen. We've seen speciation, we've seen adaptation, and don't get me wrong, for anyone who really believes in that who's listening, I mean, we've seen lots of examples, high confidence science that shows that one species can become another species, that there could be changes in gene codes over periods of time.
I'm confused again.
Well, we're done here, folks.
Yeah. Does he know what he said?
No.
So, if I call it blah, 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 can we all agree that that's evolution now? Like, we just call it something else? And
So
I'm still confused.
I think that what he's going for is to say that I actually I don't know because they're arguing against evolution, but this is kind of like an argument that God the Tinkerer that is driving evolution.
Right.
But uh, I mean, I don't know. I don't really honestly know where he's going with that, but it doesn't work either way. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been proven, but nobody's ever seen the Australopith evolve into a hominid, so the big changes.
What?
Wait. Okay, so an Australopith is a hominid. What do you mean evolved into a hominid? I'm still learning, trying to figure out this evolution thing.
It's not you this time.
Okay.
You're actually exactly right.
Okay.
He's wrong about what he said, but we'll give him benefit of the doubt here and say that he was trying to say the next transition in hominid evolution.
Okay.
And the okay, so there's the fact of evolution, which he talked about. We observe speciation, we observe adaptation, and the theory of evolution, where we take that and make predictions and we apply it to say this explains the diversity of life, and we've seen it happen enough. We have enough examples and transitional fossils to
Bree says
confidently say this
Australopithecus
is
is
an
bested among the hominids. That's what I thought.
yeah. So just the same as he talks about, we see speciation. Well, if you took the fossils of those animals, you would notice subtle changes as 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 evolution occurs, right?
Yeah.
As adaptation occurs, and so, but they're saying, well, because they're fossils and we didn't see them evolve, then it didn't happen that way. Which
How do they separate modern, like a murder mystery, from the past and figuring out biologically what happened? I don't. How do they, where is the line for them on that? That's what I don't.
if you didn't see it, then it didn't happen, is what I'm getting from it.
Okay.
I'm trying to, let's see here.
Truth Over Tea is the channel, Dane.
Why is this giving me the wrong? And yeah, the channel's linked in the title and in the other thing. But they're essentially using the same thing that Kent Hovind said here. Is if it happened over generations, you didn't see it. It's not science, you know. That whole thing. So
then why do we have prisons? Because there's no murderers for the most part.
Yeah, it's a really funny way to argue against evolution.
Yeah, I don't understand the argument.
To completely accept it and then say that it's not true because you didn't see it.
I didn't see it. Yep.
So, and I guess the point here is to say, like, we see evolution but that doesn't work for him either. He says we see evolution happen, but we didn't see it happen between those. So you can't just say that they're transitional. Which, okay, but for all,
I'd be very curious to have you talk with him or them on a more personal, like, sort of chill level, not a debate or anything, but just be like, could you explain your specific theology and how you're looking at this? Because some of this is very confusing, I find.
Yeah, they well, he's I'm not real sure. I kind of, because they were saying, well, it's inferred. It's under the theory of evolution, which we haven't seen to not hold true in anywhere we've looked. So if you want to say that evolution, like science doesn't work in absolutes, first of all. So whenever we say that these are transitional fossils, nothing's 100% ever. Like in that kind of stuff. It's this is the most well supported conclusion you can draw, is that evolution explains the diversity of life that we see.
Right.
So
lines on a paper, sir. Lines on a paper.
But the big problem with this is even if he's right, he's already accepted that speciation and adaptation occur.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
No.
Yeah. Weird position to take, for sure.
It is.
We're looking for, no one has ever seen. In fact, creationists believe in speciation, and they need it big time to explain how animals from Noah's Ark developed into the animals today. Nobody has seen old reptile ancestor, evolve into snakes and alligators. Nobody has ever seen that.
Well, then where's your line? I don't understand where your line is. You
Yeah,
believe in that? You believe in that?
and also creationists largely do not accept speciation. Uh, they they say that those are the same kind, uh, and that's where the word kind comes into play, um, and that we see adaptation, but those we don't see one kind changing into another kind. That's the argument creationists almost
But
always.
isn't that speciation?
No, it absolutely is,
No.
but that's why they
Oh, it
use
is.
kinds,
Okay.
because of the problem he just ran into. Because whenever he accepts speciation, then that's a specific thing, and he then tries to turn around and say, but speciation not in this case.
Not in this case. No,
Yeah,
no, no.
only the times we've seen it. Uh, um, yeah, Deviant Outcast. He
No.
actually earlier in the video he says that a lot of Christians accept evolution. Um, he's specifically creationist is the problem with what he's saying here. And I'm not saying that all creationists either uh, don't accept speciation. Just all the ones I've talked to and most of the ones I've heard. I've heard a few of them accept it, but then they play word games with cons and all this and that. So
Right.
Or nobody's seen a T-Rex evolve into a chicken, like Dr. Jack Horner will.
because it didn't. uh, that's a whole nother issue of where you're misunderstanding dinosaurs evolving into birds. I think it's the raptor you were looking for, but okay.
Right. So, because of that, you have to make an abductive argument. Yeah. It's not absolute evidence. It's a lot of assumptions.
No one said anything was absolute. Science doesn't claim that it's absolute. Evidence, though, is in the case of physical evidence, we have this physical thing. This is it.
Yeah.
Now, what conclusions you draw from that has to do with a lot of other things. It's not just a single, like, there's a dinosaur, there's a bird, must be related. It's not. That's not how it's done.
No.
Uh,
No.
so
And I honestly, when they found Archaeopteryx with the feathers on, I thought that was fairly evident. But apparently I'm wrong.
well, the funny thing with Archaeopteryx is whenever they showed it to a lot of different creationists, some of them said it was a dinosaur, some of them said it was a bird, but they would never accept that it was both.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but again, it's this playing with words type thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he goes into cons or not. I don't think he does. He needs to, though, to save himself.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Right. There's so
Hi,
we can with science we're supposed to be able to observe the majority of what we're
Hi,
going
Dave.
to
Hi, Dane.
theorize. Our hypothesis is going to be you make a prediction and then your hypothesis is going to be experimented on, and then from there you're going to come up with results, whatever your experiment may be. And so we're still
So wrong. That step is experimentation and observation. The what's your and we do haha. We do that too, but we do experiments in evolution. Making a prediction is a type of experiment because you're making the observation. Like if this is true, we should see this, and then we go and look and see this. The experiment is the going and looking part, right? So
Yeah.
whenever we talked about Tiktaalik, like whenever they predicted where and what layer and where you should find this beast, they the experiment was, let's go dig it up and see if it's there.
Yeah.
And it was. So, yeah.
We're going to be using a lot of philosophical presuppositions in order
No.
to do this.
No.
So that's why creationists don't.
No. that is the one cool thing about science and the scientific method, is you can leave your bias and your presuppositions at the door. And 51% of scientists believe in God.
Yeah.
As of the last stat that I looked at from Pew. 51% of scientists believe in God, but for the most part, those scientists leave their beliefs at the door when they're doing science, because their religion and their work are not the same thing. They're able to separate those two, which I admit must be tricky in some cases. But
I've actually got to pop out for a few minutes. I've got a
Yeah.
grocery order coming.
Yeah.
So I will probably come back in a little bit, okay?
Okay, no problem. I'll be here.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, Jess. All right. Now I got to cry for 20 minutes since Jess left. Let's see. And let's bring this back. All right.
Of any kind, none of them reject speciation. None of them reject any form of observed evolution. None of them. You're only going to have, once you start to get to the point to where we can't observe it, and now we're going to bring in philosophical presuppositions to help delineate the theory, to help, I guess, shape the theory of what we believe to be true. There's a lot of philosophy that gets smuggled into this.
Yeah.
No. Again. This he's doing the same thing again, where he's built this straw man and now he's arguing against it, when that's not how science is done. Philosophical presuppositions are no part of the scientific method. Now, I mean, there's some basic presuppositions that we all make. Well, for the most part, but that's not what he's talking about. Yeah, sorry guys. Next time I'll check your schedule first. On Fridays, Ember sells used stereos out of the back of her Lincoln. Nice. What's up, Dade? Good to see you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are very familiar with science are not familiar with philosophy.
Right.
And so they make assumptions and they don't realize. Yeah, they smuggle in philosophy and they don't realize.
Right.
You don't have to be familiar with philosophy to know whether you have a bias or not. You don't have to be trained in philosophy to know whether you're doing that. That's silly. The scientists, so the scientists are not equipped to do science because they don't know philosophy, is what he's trying to say.
And thank you
by
for
the way,
joining,
you can hear me better now?
Or Pastor Chris. Yeah, I can hear you. Your mic is working good now. Thanks for
Okay.
joining, Pastor Chris. He says he's got to go, and to make sure to post this on the Lexington Park Church's website. I
Kick
guess,
rocks,
or
Chris.
YouTube.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, we can go ahead and get into the next section. let's see here.
Wait, did you see what he said here? He said, I was at the Smithsonian a few years back. There was a public school trip at the museum. A student in about 4th grade saw a series of statues from ape to man. He called his teacher over and said, I don't know about you, but I didn't come from no ape.
Well,
No, ha ha ha. Isn't kids being ignorant so funny? What the fuck? And the March of Man, that illustration, I think that's what it's called, the March of Man, is an artistic expression. It uses actual, like, it depicts a particular thing, but that's not every step of the way, or even it's celebrating kids' ignorance is not a good thing. Go to arkencounterprotest.com. You can come help us fight against that.
Yeah.
and we'll talk a little bit about that later. The kind of the illusion of, I'm trying to be as polite as possible. When you see like videos of the transition from
March of Progress,
Australopithecus to man, or from like a more primitive ape to man, it's kind of misleading. They have a little bit of sleight of hand in these types of videos, or like a fish to reptile, but we'll get into that later. Let's get to the next.
They didn't explain every single aspect of it to me, to my liking, so therefore it's done in some devious way. I used to have a friend who said I didn't evolve from no monkey, to which I replied, fair enough, not all of us evolved. Yeah. I was in programming class talking to someone about evolution back in like 2006, 7, somewhere in there. And some dude jumped up in the middle of class, some redneck dude. I ain't gonna listen to this shit. I didn't come from no damn monkey. Yeah. I mean, people can be stupid, I guess, but the celebrating the kids saying something stupid was a little bit much, especially from the person who just said that they accept speciation and evolution for all intents and purposes. That is Darwin's book. Sorry, I was confused about what. Yeah. No, you were both right though. Like, they have similar things.
Time stamp here.
Rather than just throwing up the next counter argument. And they can see how science is very much different than whatever their parent or their preacher or whatever PragerU video they've been watching might have told them. That one's real, by the way, Bacteria to Beethoven, in which one.
So this is the part where you'd mentioned he doesn't delineate between observational and forensic science. So, like, assuming that Darwinism is on the same level as physics, as like Newtonian physics, right? Even though I guess there are certain things about Newtonian physics that are different today, but a lot of it's still the same. These are things that we can observe, we can test, no problem.
Yeah.
We can still say they're falsifiable because they are scientific theories. All scientific theories are falsifiable, but they're not based in philosophy, so to say. You can say that, they're based in natural philosophy, something like we assume that.
More arguing against the straw man that he built. Evolution is not based in philosophy. While philosophy is used for science and everything else pretty much, it's not a philosophical position. The theory of evolution is not a philosophical theory. It's backed up by novel testable predictions and hard evidence.
Gravity is going to be true now because it has been for the past 5,000 years, and it'll be true for the next 5,000 years, because all we have to do is based on the past. I don't want to get like into the problem of induction, at least not yet, but that's something that we can base an inference off of because of observations. It's not as easy to do with things that we haven't observed when you have to extrapolate.
Incredulity.
Once you start extrapolating, again, like we said earlier,
Yes.
you've now smuggled in philosophy.
Yes.
No. So again, the scientific method, you could argue, is a philosophical thing. Like you could say that you use philosophy every step of the way, but that doesn't mean that every I, I don't understand. Again, he makes this is a horrible argument because he's kind of it's like self-defeating here.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I have nothing to add to that. That's good. I mean, that's it. That's it.
And that's one thing I've noticed. And mind you, I am not going to deny a lot of the videos he shows here are cringe young Earth creationists.
Yes. Not all of them. Sometimes he shows, you know, like
watching one
Steve
now.
Myers. He'll show him.
Well, he's not a young Earth creationist, but there are.
But yeah, you're right.
There
but,
are your you know, Answers in Genesis does this sometimes. I'm going to say, like, you know, Kent Hovind style videos that they can be very cringe, very.
My man, you just made Kent Hovind's argument that if you don't see it, it's not science. You just made the same. In fact, hold on a second. Okay. Where's it at? Where is my... Right here. Right here. Pay attention.
See, it takes place over many generations, so you can't see it. Well, that makes it not science.
One more time.
See, it takes place over many generations, so you can't see it. Well, that makes it not science.
Okay. He was wrong too, by the way. Yeah.
Yes.
You're not looking at the whole picture. You're not steel manning Darwinian evolution.
Yeah.
You have yet to look at the whole picture in any way whatsoever. So, I mean, isn't that the pot calling the kettle a monkey?
And if you don't steel man it, then they're not going to take you seriously. So the actual, like, truth seeker, if they seek, so this is a problem. There's an example of somebody that I spoke to.
Oh, the poop's name is Dr. Tungus.
That was worried that their children were watching Pokemon because they were concerned about the reference to evolution in Pokemon.
Wow.
Right. And I was just trying to explain to them, well, first off, it's a cartoon. And even in.
So I'm not saying that he's wrong about this, but every time that I've heard theists upset about Pokemon, it's not because of evolution. It's because of magic. It's sorcery and such. That these, you know, like it's the magic part of it that they have an issue with. But I will definitely be at the Arc Encounter protest this July 6th in Williamstown, Kentucky. Hell yeah, Dave. Good. I can't wait to see you.
Darwinian evolution, it's not like Pokemon. You don't train and then get to the next level and evolve, you know, and it's just, and I understand why they would have such a fear, but at the same time, we got to understand what we're arguing against. There are a lot of Christian content creators, a lot of Christian ministries that do not steelman the opposition. They don't steelman Darwinian evolution. And so when you do that, anybody who is seeking truth, once they do a little bit more research into naturalism, into what their views are, and they see that's not what is actually being presented as their best case, that's going to cause them to be skeptical. And we can.
Yeah. Thank you, Pinworm. $1.49. It says a red rose. I'm guessing that's a super sticker. Thank you so much, Pinworm. I truly appreciate that. You're always very generous and helping out the channel and stuff. Thank you. So what he said about they're skeptical because they don't see this and that. It's funny though. We can't. The problem is that there's no consistency in that skepticism. It's not actual skepticism. It's denial because of post hoc rationalization, and it's not actual skepticism, because if it was, they would take that skepticism, flip it around, and apply it to their own narrative. I'll bring merch. You can. We'll set it up on a table for you. You can. Oh, you're talking about different merch. Never mind. Yeah. I have that too.
Probably talk about this later on in another live stream, but I'll briefly mention the recent video with Rhett and Alex O'Connor.
I did not see that. Okay.
So one of Rhett's biggest hangups was he found out that his sources on evolution were coming from the church, and a lot of them were straw manning evolution. And so that caused him to question the authority in the church. And he's, well, how can I trust you guys now when you're not telling me the truth about this?
So I say this all the time now, is that I think that the young earth creationists are partly responsible for the numbers shrinking among Christians, because now that we can access pretty much any information we want at our fingertips in a second within our from our pocket at any time. Whenever these absurd, outrageous claims are made, I think a lot of people probably ask themselves, is that true? And then they go look it up, and it starts them on the rabbit trail of finding out all the other things that they're lying about. So I agree that the church and you, Adam, you as well, strawman evolution and the position that people take on evolution, but I don't think that's anything new.
Although I think there's a bigger picture he's missing, to that small extent, that is a good point. That can lead people astray. So we have to be more careful to be very.
Who's making presuppositions now?
Serious when we're addressing things like this. We have to 100% steelman every aspect that may seem to go against Christianity. Because if it's true,
you failed incredibly already, and there's an hour and some left in this video.
Christianity is true, we shouldn't be scared to.
Right, guys, please stop straw manning arguments. We can do this. We can defeat them in all of their strength, not just when after we've missed.
You got to be fucking kidding me. Are they really telling other people not to straw man evolution? It's the only thing that they've done in this video other than the equivocation fallacy. Lead people astray. Yeah, that's what I meant by who's making presuppositions now.
Represented them in some way,
Right.
Yeah. Now listen, to be fair, atheists do this out the wazoo to Christians, and he will do it for a large percentage of this video. Just stay tuned. He will strawman Christians.
as my pastor would say, this kind of we should expect this from them.
Right.
Like we should expect those who are lost to act lost. So for a quick example, and we'll get back to the video. When
most would call this delusional. Dane.
during the Olympics, when they did the making fun of the Last Supper.
Oh, in the opening
Right.
ceremony.
Right. Christians were outraged.
Hold on a minute, folks. Hold on a minute here. Robin Webster's in the house. Hi, Robin. All right, continuing.
They were, and justifiably so. They're making fun of a very important event in the history of Christianity, the Last Supper with Christ our Lord. But people had way
Who's making presuppositions now?
more outrage over that than they did over things like scandals with pastors where they were abusing children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of goes, we should expect this from them. It's okay to be upset. And we should speak against it. But when we have to show the same energy against the other folks as well. And we should.
It's not energy that you need, Bub. It's evidence. It's evidence that you need, not energy. So bitching about atheists criticizing your holy narrative. Why? Like, what's me criticizing your narrative? How does that affect your belief in any way whatsoever? How does that hurt your relationship with God because I criticize the things that you pretend are true, that you have no evidence or support for?
Again, we should be more upset with the Christian that did this because we shouldn't expect them. We should hold them to a higher standard as opposed to the lost people. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Well said. Oh, wait, we got Savage Man saying it's good that we're back. Hey, man, it's good to be here. Glad you joined us today.
Yes, it's good to be back live. We'll be doing more live streams. I'm going to be doing a live stream Thursday, having a follow-up discussion with an atheist who was in my comments on the video that I just recently posted on my discussion with Matt Dillahunty. So make sure you guys tune into that and watch that video if you haven't already. But anyways,
he says debate or he says discussion. That'll be kind of like a debate. That one isn't. Yeah,
right.
Just read the.
It wasn't a debate at all. You called in and said stupid things. Matt told you why they were stupid. It lasted a handful of minutes and it was over. It was not a debate. It was you calling and saying wrong things.
Comments, and you'll know.
Yeah,
I have that video too, by the way. We'll watch it later.
It's not a formal debate, but I mean, we'll be having a discussion of disagreement, and we'll see how that goes.
A disagreement.
But anyways,
there you go.
Let's get back to the video.
So, in case you weren't aware, evolution is not the origin of life. Those are actually different things. But that doesn't stop creationist media like this from stretching the word evolution to mean the origin of life or anything else and everything else, like they do in this next clip where Rachel is meeting with her friend in the library who wants her to stop believing her professor.
Just answer me this one question. Did God create this world, or did it come about through evolution, like Heyman says?
Evan.
Just answer the question, please.
Neither! Because the planet Earth didn't evolve! And so in this one film, we go for evolution being an explanation for the diversity of life, to an explanation for the origin of life, to an explanation for the origin of the planet. And a lot of creationist media will take things even further back from that. Take a look at this last clip from a creationist show called...
Okay, that was the timestamp there. Real quick before you get into it, cosmologists and theoretical physicists 100% assert models of cosmic evolution. So they believe that in a sense there was a cosmic evolution for the planet Earth to come about. So
that's because you don't know what the word means. Dave, there's a link to my Discord in the chat. So at the beginning of the video, he tried to play some word games with evolution and said it means things that it doesn't, and then added a whole bunch of other terms to it to try and muddy the water. Evolution, biological evolution, which is what we're talking about, is changes in allele frequencies over time in a population. we all know this, right? I don't need to explain this. All right.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
true.
Yeah, so technically, I mean, modern synthesis might not
There it
have
is.
under its umbrella planetary or stellar evolution, but
Right.
they definitely believe in it. The philosophical thread that out of chaos comes order. I mean, that's
Right.
the whole thing. That's the entire thing. Why? Because you have to explain all of the order that we have today, not through design. If you're
All right. So that you're right. That is the whole thing. The second law of thermodynamics, which is what he's poorly referring to here, even though he uses the wrong terminology. Um, that is the whole thing here, isn't it? Is your misunderstanding of science and your refusal to learn it. You sit here and talk about we need to still man these things. We need to still man these things, and then you go and build straw man after straw man after straw man. Do I need to explain to anybody why that's not the case? So, um, just because you have complexity in a system doesn't mean that the total entropy is changed in any way. It doesn't mean that it doesn't change anything. It's expected. It's what we see. Um, you're just wrong.
going to do it in a naturalistic framework, you have to do
Right.
that. And so, okay, maybe if we're just talking about biology, I understand that guy might have smuggled in some cosmology there, but he's hitting it philosophically. He's
Right.
hitting it at the target. That is what you're saying. But let me say this, though, also, in addition to that, thank you for admitting that evolution and life's origins are technically two different things. That the biological one, I do appreciate that he said that, because then that kind of goes to what we were just saying earlier. It's like,
no person that I have ever watched who has an understanding of evolution or any science communicator that is actually talking about science has ever said that the origin of life and evolution is the same thing. The only people I've heard conflate those two things are creationists.
well, that's why there are theistic evolutionists. They think
Yeah.
God started the first life.
Right.
That's why there's theistic evolutionists. You poor idiot. So you just finished saying about how you're glad he didn't conflate those two things, and then turned right around and said that's why there's theistic evolutionists conflating the two things. Or I guess in your case, you might not be, because you think that God created it and evolution is separate. You made it sound that way, though. Sorry, I shouldn't have called you an idiot. I apologize. I'm an idiot too, so it's okay.
So it's, when you say that, you take away a lot of.
You're not a member, so you can't spam Robin emojis. You guys let Sumami's membership run out. Robin just gifted one. Who'd she hit? Left-handed Jedi. If I could gift them Sumami, I would, but for some reason I can't do that. But we do have them for 99 cents. For the gifted ones cost more than that, and I can't change it. But yeah, but we'll get you back on there soon, Sumami. Don't you worry. In fact, if I have to, I'll pay for the memberships here in a minute when I'm done, and I'll gift a few. Poor Claire was gifted a membership by Robin. Try it again, and Robin's usually has the best aim.
The naturalist's power of evolution to a degree, yeah, because it doesn't explain abiogenesis, which is a fancy word just for the life coming from non-life. life coming from life is the law of biogenesis.
All right. Left-handed Jedi gifted 5 Kentucky Atheist memberships. It looks like we got Apostate Sisters, Tilting Windmill, Mage, Toto, and Fern. Wow, still miss Sumami. Wow. Sumami's here a lot more than some of those people. I would have thought she would have. I don't think I can do it, Ember, because it's not. I think because the Kentucky Atheist is a brand on my main account. And I think you have to do it from the main account. You can't do it from a brand account. I think that's what the problem is. But if you want to try and show me, you still can. I will accept your help. Because I'm, unlike these guys, I'm completely open to the fact that I may be wrong. Amber gifted 5 memberships. Anarchic, I can't say it. Fox, Ian Chin, Sydney Raptor, Vaughn, and Godless Granny. Wow. Sumami's hard to hit. She's a hard target.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, there you go.
Yeah, well, the delineation must be made, like you said, because ultimately, now I do think it's kind of funny that this is kind of a defense mechanism, because you do want to ask, like I always try to ask those who believe in Darwinian evolution, how did the first cell become not only a plant, like a herbivore, like a plant of some sort, and then that same ancestor became having the same ancestor also became
Robin gifted another membership and hit Vincent Van Gogh. I don't know. I don't even know who that person is. The video of Forrest isn't playing because they play 2 seconds of it and then set and make stuff up for 20 minutes.
something carnivorous.
Yeah.
Right. I guess there are carnivorous plants, but something that's not a plant, like something like a fish. So the fish and the plant have the same ancestor. Like what happened? I'm not sure. And I've seen some attempted explanations that I find really strange. Like basically their exposure to sun, and because of the exposure to the sun, it was able to adapt over a long period of time to become a plant, because plants can do photosynthesis and they can breathe in oxygen. They can.
I don't understand what he means by it's really weird and all that, because first of all, it doesn't matter if you think it's weird. It's not, your incredulity is not a factor in whether it's true or not. The second part, though, so what he's trying to talk about is how we got these cells to become plant cells and animal cells, and those two things are related. And how does that happen? Because the cells were exposed to sun. Well, adaptation through natural selection is how it happens, sir. Evolution has your explanation ready to go. You're so busy trying to twist and turn your way through word games to get out of it, while sitting and describing evolution.
Vibe on the sun. Sunlight is good for plants, better so than like fish or something else. Fish like sun, but not as much as a plant. Obviously, sunlight is good for plants.
Sunlight is good for all living things. Well, most living things.
That's always been strange to me. Something like that, and then other questions in that realm play right after that moment of abiogenesis, but you don't ever hear the atheist advocates that are, somebody like Forrest, who's a what does he call himself? A science. What does he call himself? A science. No. Specific to YouTube, science content creator, something of the sort.
Okay.
Gutsick Gibbon, Forrest Valkai, creation myths. None of them ever talk about that. And if you guys are watching by any chance,
They are talking about that. You're just not listening. Brainless Steel just gifted 5 Kentucky Atheist memberships. Thank you guys so much for all the membership gifting. Let's see if Brainless Steel managed to hit Tsunami. I don't think so. Why can I not scroll? Rainbow Ash, Christian Alexander, Dr. Tapioca Weasel, KDH, and Winston M. all became members. No Tsunami.
please point me in the direction of where we can find good explanations, naturalistic explanations for such things.
Yes. Please do that.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we covered that one. Did we cover that one? I think we did.
Yeah. We'll move on to the next part.
Yeah.
Called the Kennedy Report, which claims to destroy evolution in 5 key points.
Hold on. Regios just gifted 20 memberships. This is gonna. I imagine Tsunami got it this time. I would find it hard to believe if you didn't hear. Toy Soldier, Hell's Bells, Dean Kruger, Bomb Poppy, Plastic Roses, Stacy C, Hot Mess Summer. Whoop whoop. There it is. Tsunami. Thanks, Regios. That was super cool. Thank you. Tyler West, Big D's back. Ronald at Indian Lake, Yahooligan, Kip Davis, Casey A. Randy, Jay, Druzilla, Dvids, Mark Reed. All right. Hey, Reg bet big on that one. 20 memberships. Thank you so much, Regios. That's the most memberships anyone's ever gifted. In fact, this stream now probably has a record for the most memberships gifted in a single stream. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. John Fabiano. You're doing a great job, Joe. My son has been asking me questions all morning. Well, good. Asking questions is good, and I hope I'm not an expert or an authority on these things, but I try. I try to talk about them in a way that both I understand and hopefully you do too, without me getting too many things wrong. But I'll go ahead and apologize ahead of time for when I do, because I do sometimes.
We're going to destroy evolution in 5 key points.
What I just said.
So number 1, the Big Bang. There's this idea that basically the universe popped out of nothing, and from there we have what they call the Big Bang.
Now, you may not...
Isn't that Pastor Huckleberry? Isn't that who that was? Only like in a different scene wearing different things? Maybe it was somebody else and I'm just confused. Regios hit everybody.
be aware, but let me be the first to tell you, the Big Bang and evolution are not synonymous terms. They're different things, and yet you would be shocked to hear just how many anti-evolution arguments start with complaints about the origin of life, the chemical evolution of organic compounds, the Big Bang itself, whatever. And this is a remarkably common theme, because if you don't know what evolution is, it's very easy to think that you've debunked it. So this is misconception number 1, that evolution is the explanation for life, the universe, and everything. If you're going to teach evolution to a creationist, the first crucial step is understanding what evolution actually is. Memorize this definition. This is the textbook definition of evolution. It's any change in the heritable characteristics of a population over the course of multiple generations. When you understand this definition and have it locked down, you can combat a lot of misconceptions.
All right, before they say anything, they just paused. before they say anything, earlier at the beginning of the video, they gave totally different definitions for evolution and said that it applies to all these other things. In fact, it was their first Kent Hovind argument they made while saying that Kent Hovind is cringe and all that. They tend to keep making his arguments for him. They've made 3 that I know of now.
So does kind of touch on what we just talked about, but I have heard you believe in a Big Bang. Like people say, you just believe in a Big Bang that caused everything in evolution. And I get it. As someone who spends a lot of time in the debate spaces on TikTok, you hear this a lot. And I'll admit, just like he said, it sounds like you don't know what evolution is.
He just made this argument earlier.
Yeah. Actually, we as Christians, especially those who use the Kalam, use the Big Bang as evidence that the universe had a beginning. I'll do that. I'll grant them. Like if you're talking to someone about the
which is why the Kalam fails, because you don't know that the universe had a beginning. In fact, the thermodynamics thing you talked about earlier kind of suggests that maybe the energy used to create the universe and all the matter in it is eternal. Maybe. There's not a contradiction there if it is.
Beginning of the universe and God existing, you're trying to convince them of that. You'll grant them, okay, maybe it's an old universe, okay, but you agree that it began at some point, and then boom, you have the Kalam argument, which is the Arabic word for eternity, and it's saying actual eternity couldn't have existed. We had to have begun at some point, and so some Christians like William Lane Craig will actually use the Big Bang Theory. So I mean, yeah.
So the Kalam does not refer to the Big Bang Theory necessarily. It just says that the universe had a beginning. It doesn't describe any mechanism of the Big Bang or expansion of space-time. It doesn't talk about the cooling down and the coalescing of stars. It doesn't talk about any of that at all. The coalescing was the word. I don't know if William Lane Craig ever specifically talks about the Big Bang, but in the times that I've heard him make the Kalam argument, and Ember actually covered William Lane Craig making that argument with me one day, he doesn't talk about the Big Bang. He just talks about a beginning, which again, many theoretical physicists and cosmologists now think that it's a possibility that the energy and matter, the energy and the universe is eternal. It just changed forms.
When you just throw it out like that, it shows you might not know what's going on.
Right. And there's no need, I think, to what you said, it's not bad to use their own model to help them come to God. Yeah. Because ultimately, salvation does not depend on how you interpret Genesis 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. It doesn't depend on that, and 3, I guess. But what it does depend on is if you're submitting to Christ and you accept the grace that Christ has offered us. That's ultimately what it depends on. But if the obstacle is conventional science doesn't agree with the Bible, we got scholars out the wazoo that have written volumes on how Genesis can be interpreted to fit with modern day science. We just need to understand the scope of an ancient Near Eastern writer 3,000 years ago. They weren't writing in the same literalistic fashion that we're used to today. So although you and I disagree with them, at the end of the day, you can interpret that, and I think you can exegetically to most of the way there. I think there are some parts that you run into that might be problematic, outside of issues we won't get into here, but you can do that. So this should not be an obstacle to come to believing in the resurrection. it should be.
Amen. And the resurrection, that one is a pinnacle belief.
Right.
That one, no, has to have had a bodily resurrection. Christ had to have had that for
Right.
Christianity to be true. So that one.
Well, now all you got to do is prove it. Yeah. Amber hits the nail on the head here. Yep, we're nearing consensus that the inflation event is more akin to a phase change from a liquid to a gas, for example, expansion. Yeah. Pretty sure the laws about not eating shellfish weren't meant to be taken metaphorically. Sure it was. When they said don't eat clams, they meant something else. Deviant Outcast called him out. Kalam is not Arabic for eternal. It's Arabic meaning literary speech. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Is different.
Right.
But now Savage Man says, what is the difference? Or he asks,
Yeah, I
what
was
is
just
the
about to
difference
pull that up.
between evolution and adaptation? I forgot you could do that. And well, adaptation can be synonymous with speciation. And
No, it's not. Adaptation is what causes speciation. It's not synonymous with it. That's like saying evolution is synonymous with abiogenesis.
it's where you see that organisms change over time because of mutations in natural selection, and they do. And we've accelerated that with dogs, from wolves all the way to Pomeranians, small little dogs, right? And then we've done a lot of tests, like with E. coli, where you have 30,000 or so generations over like 20 years. Scientists have done this, and you've seen, they acquired some new characteristics, like they're able to now eat something different than they were before. That we would call adaptation or speciation, right? But
oh, you asshole! So this was dishonest. He pretended to know a thing he doesn't know, and the experiments he's talking about, they did do some with E. coli, and there are some long ones. But the most important ones that apply to what he's talking about would be the ones done with yeast and algae and things like that, where with yeast, um, over 50 weeks, they observed yeast evolve from a single cell organism to a multicellular organism. And the adaptation was these tubules that connected the cells together, and it was a multicellular organism, in that if you killed one part of it, the rest of it would die, or risk dying, because they were all dependent on each other. It was one organism. It wasn't just a colony of cells. It was a multicellular organism, and so that's the one you should have used instead of saying, "Oh yeah, E. coli over 20 years and it had small characteristic differences." No, we actually observed in real time evolution from a single cell organism to a multicellular species. So you are wrong, sir. Also, algae, pretty much the same kind of thing, only with so I won't explain the whole experiment. Most of you know it, but essentially they introduced a threat, and it caused pressures to create changes in those cells.
that's not what a lot of creationists, the term they use is macroevolution. That's not macroevolution, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about evolution. We're trying to say how, they say the goo turned into you via the zoo.
So wrong again. Whenever people talk about macroevolution, that really macroevolution, it's just evolution. They're there has been a lot of people accept the difference, But essentially, whenever they say macroevolution, they're talking about speciation, um, or larger, depending on the distance between relatives. Uh, when they talk macroevolution, they're talking adaptation. Um, Adaptation over time leads to speciation, so it's all evolution. Even if you start with what they're calling macroevolution, and you say that a species experienced very small changes over time, once you put that on the time scale of Earth, and you're talking about billions of years or many hundreds of millions of years, or depends on what species you're talking about. But those small changes over time add up. So eventually, because of small changes to be more fit to the environment, you have a thing that doesn't resemble the first thing, such as we see with Tiktaalik that we talked about earlier, and whales, and we see all that. Macroevolution refers to speciation.
Like we're talking about the big changes. How are elephants and cantaloupes related? And that's the one that we don't have observation for, and it's
all right. So we got Kent Hovind argument number 4. No, we don't observe that because it takes many thousands of years for that to have occurred. I don't know what the last universal common ancestor would be between those two, but I would have to imagine it's very far back in the past. I may look that up later, and I'll let you guys know later. But you're again arguing, oh well, we see speciation, we see adaptation, evolution, we see all the things that are needed to explain the relationship between those two things, but we didn't see it happen, so not science.
not just, I mean, like if dinosaurs really evolved into birds, we don't have observation of that, and so that's where we draw the line there. And creationists always draw the line there. What happens with evolutionists, well, those who believe in,
that's not where creationists always draw the line, because most creationists don't accept that dinosaurs didn't walk the earth with man. Also, Dave here brought up observe the genetics data. That's another thing. We can look at two things and look at the genetic data and see how closely they're related, and it's one of the many tools we use that confirms evolution.
modern synthesis, is that they say, and Darwin wrote on this is what On the Origin of Species is about, is that, well, he believed that with, small incremental changes, those changes that we do have evidence of, that adaptation, if you just give it enough time, it will eventually become macroevolution. That's what they're claiming. And then we'll just say, well, we're lacking evidence of.
That's what we're observing, you mean?
That. In fact, we have evidence that makes that look bonkers.
Right.
I know that's not.
He has evidence that shows that macroevolution is bonkers, even though he already accepted it twice during this video.
Scientific term, but it makes that look like a giant claim. We just don't have evidence for that, and that is a scientific way to look at macroevolution.
Well, yeah, it would be, in my mind, unsubstantiated without massive
So, okay, well, I'll let him finish.
From the data we do have. So you're gonna slide in naturalistic philosophy, because that's ultimately where this is going to come from. We have to figure out a way that this can work without God.
All right, so that is not how anything is done at all. There is never a goal to figure out how evolution works without God. That's not how it's done in any way whatsoever. And he keeps wanting to switch this conversation into a philosophical one, and he's failing terribly at doing so. The We didn't go out and set out to disprove God or anything for any bit of science. Science is the study of the natural world. We looked at the mechanisms and processes that we could observe, and we drew conclusions from them, and then we made predictions and tested those and made observations that either confirmed or refuted our conclusions. But the conclusions are what they were. It has nothing to do with God in any way.
So if there's no natural predisposition, because like you would have to argue that this fish has the natural predisposition to be any form of life today. So like the first fish type creature that ever existed in the Darwinian timeline also has the natural predisposition to be a human, to be an elephant.
So think about what he said there. You have to assume that this fish can be anything, but that's how you do your conclusions. Is you start with the conclusion and work your way backwards. That's not how this works. You don't have to assume anything about the fish. And also, back to the genetics thing, sure, there were observations that we were able to observe in real time, but genetics confirmed many of the predictions made by evolution. And then on top of that, you can on things you have the available DNA for, you can find the hereditary genes that were passed down. The we don't do it backwards like that, though. That's just wrong again.
To be a giraffe, to be all these different animals,
No.
because of
How would you start with a fish and not have giraffe, and then say that, well, the fish will probably become a giraffe? Because the reason that the changes are passed on is because of environmental pressures that select those mutations within that population. So you can't you can't know what it's going to evolve into. You can say, well, this thing may be more helpful for this environment or that environment, but environments are always changing. So it doesn't, most environments anyway. Stasis is a thing.
it's already preset natural disposition, which alone begs an explanation. How does it have this natural predisposition? That's crazy. This is we're using things we've observed. So adaptation, to finalize the answer to this question, adaptation can be considered evolution. I just call it evolution just to avoid confusion for brevity. There's no reason not to. Or it's not a good reason to like harp.
What do you mean? You just call it that? Adaptation through natural selection is one of the mechanisms, is the primary mechanism of evolution. So yes, I don't know what the problem is here.
On that point. And I'm the dictionary guy. I'm the one who gets upset with atheists who say it's just a lack of belief in God. No, it's because you affirm the proposition God does not exist. But in this case, there's no harm in the case of
no.
So we can just say, yes, adaptation is evolution.
Let me explain to you, Adam, and I know somebody's had to explain this to you before also. Me being an atheist does not mean that I affirm that God does not exist. I think that the Christian God is probably impossible, and I haven't seen one that I think is possible, but I'm just simply not convinced that a God exists. You have provided no reason for me to believe a God exists, nor has anyone else. No good reason, anyway, that is. So, no, it has nothing to do with insisting that God doesn't exist. Again, you take it back to like, just because you start with God and try to explain everything through your presupposition doesn't mean that I'm doing the same or that science does that. This is a stupid thing to say.
But adaptation doesn't follow with Darwinian evolution, common descent of all beings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not enough. Yeah.
Right.
It's not the only thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get on to the next point.
Are they not aware there are many principles to evolution? Like the like, it's not just adaptation. It's hereditary genes being passed on, and stasis, and genetic drift, and like there's a lot of things at play. Not just calling it adaptation.
For example, we've all heard this one. Well, why don't we ever see a dog giving birth to a non-dog? Well, because that would be a major change in a population over just one generation rather than a lot of them. That's not how speciation or actually how anything at all works. We're talking about a change in heritable characteristics, which, by the way, you can see between different populations of dogs, like different dog breeds and stuff. Yeah, but that's adaptation, not evolution. No. Adaptation is the process by which new traits are acquired. It's a function of the change in heritable characteristics that we're talking about. And no matter how you slice it, it's a major part of the definition of evolution, because adaptation is to evolution what the angular momentum of a wheel is to driving a car. Well,
minus the angular momentum part. I just said that, by the way.
Then why haven't my cats evolved into humans yet? Well, that's because your cat is an individual, not a population, and is only alive for one generation, not several. And even if we were watching a population of cats evolve, they certainly wouldn't have a reason to evolve into humans. You don't want to get me started on selection pressure, Kathy. You don't want to hear it.
So he addresses
angular,
it right there.
Yeah, angular momentum is not like adaptation to macro evolution. It's just not, because we can see angular momentum in a wheel and how that relates to the car moving. We can see that. We can observe it. We can stop the test, do it again 150 times if you want to. We cannot back up and watch Australopiths evolve into humans and go over it again a ton of times. We can't do a double-blind test. We can't do prospecting.
You, my friend, did not listen to what he said. I was going to be mean and call you a name, but you didn't listen to what was said. And I don't know how you see. I mean, I guess you do see angular momentum, but in the same way that you can observe evolution. Like, just because you don't see the specific example that you gave, which also, again, evolution isn't about individuals, it's about populations. I mean, but we do observe evolution the same way that we observe angular momentum. They're not the same thing. He wasn't trying to say they're the same thing. He was just explaining that there's, he was trying to explain how it fits within the definition, because adaptation is is a major part of the definition of evolution. He wasn't saying the other thing that you said he was. That's another straw man.
Studies of that, right? It's just looking at skulls and stuff, and looking at genetics and extrapolating out and assuming it's possible if you apply the right philosophy. I mean, that's really what we're doing. So they're not comparable. You can't do that. Now, we did just deal.
He wasn't comparing the two, and while philosophy was at use there, this isn't about philosophy. Stop it. Stop.
The vast majority of what he just said. So no need to say it again there. But yeah. It's just, that's what evolutionists do. They take the evidence that we do have for adaptation, and then they say, okay, and that's enough for the whole thing. And then honestly, we're just being skeptical of that. If you look at it from a scientific point of view, we also think it doesn't match with.
No, you're not being skeptical. You're being intellectually dishonest is what you're doing. So far, you've committed fallacy after fallacy after fallacy, and you have misrepresented the things that are being said right here in this very video. So you're not using skepticism. Instead, You're denying the things that an actual professional biologist, a professional in the field, is telling you because of the things that your book says. You're not using skepticism, you're using science denial. And you've made like 4 Kent Hovind arguments now.
Scripture. But we're saying, yeah, we're just skeptical that that actually happens.
Well, then you also have to, again, you're seeing the smuggled in philosophy there. But this is ironic because actually, one of the things.
Smuggled in philosophy. Okay, so anytime you use, like, anytime that you're using a method to think about things, or some you're thinking about it logically, he's going to say you're smuggling in philosophy. Nothing was said about philosophy or philosophical terms or anything that would require you to know anything at all about philosophy. You have to stop with the philosophy thing. Like, stop trying to make this about philosophy. It hasn't been. It isn't. Philosophy is used. It's used in all kinds of. It's hard not to use philosophy. In fact, I don't know how you could have this discussion without some sort of philosophy. But that doesn't mean that anything's being smuggled in. You're the only one trying to smuggle philosophy into this conversation. Imagine that, a Christian with projection issues.
That you hear about is punctuated equilibrium.
Yeah.
And so that means that there's no change, no change, no change, no change, no change. So the change actually happens faster than they originally thought. And you see like Stephen Jay Gould and other, I guess, evolutionary biologists, he was like, what, 70s, 80s. They came up with that. And that's actually going to be part of my critique later. Like this punctuated evolution actually is going to bring more questions than more answers.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. Like, yes, it does take a long time for this to happen, but there's punctuated equilibrium. So there's a moment where it happens really fast because instead of, gradual.
Really fast on what time scale, though, friend? What are we calling really fast here?
Evolution. It's punctuated. So what?
Yeah. That's kind of a just so story. It just, maybe it just sped up sometimes.
Right.
So fast that we don't observe it,
Well, if there's major changes in environment, then there's major adaptations in mutations. Like I don't know what I don't know what's the problem?
Maybe. Well, maybe that happened. We don't have evidence to support that because it's so fast by definition.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's saying. He's saying is, well, there are these gaps in the fossil record. And I know you're going to explain it later, but it's like, you got these gaps. Maybe the reason these gaps exist is because animals, sped up the evolution during certain periods of time, maybe when the selection pressure was very intense, which means the environment around it was so harsh, it was forcing it to change or die very quickly. Maybe that was happening.
So, after setting and going on about you didn't see it, so we can't say that, you're going to sit and just make all these assumptions about gaps in the fossil record, doing exactly. This is so dishonest. You're doing exactly the thing you just sat and bitched about for 30 minutes. Also, we have gaps in the fossil records because it's an extremely special situation that things fossilize. Not everything that dies fossilizes. Not every species even has fossils that we've discovered. We know that because of these gaps and things. But this is again taking, like, you're trying to take the gaps and then apply it to the whole thing and be like, oh, well, since they have gaps here, they don't have anything. This video started with Forrest showing you transitional hominid skulls in order.
And so the animals just changed quicker, and that's why we don't really have fossils to support the intermediate links between these two things. Like we don't have the intermediate very much between a T-Rex and a chicken. We just don't have that.
Right.
At least within that, we have gaps. And maybe it's sped up quick, but that seems like just a rescuing device to me.
Well, and this is going to again be a
He just pulled that out his ass, by the way.
potential solution, but this is more like, it seems to me this is more to kind of back up a philosophy than anything. Because I first heard about punctuated equilibrium because I asked about the gaps in the fossil record, and that
You brought up punctuated equilibrium, and now you're arguing about it being a philosophy. Like, I thought we were talking about what Forrest said. And how can anyone explain to me, because I may be wrong about this, but can you explain how a mechanism is a philosophy? Because it's not.
was the explanation. And so what I think would be reasonable to, I guess, deduce from that would be, well, if that's the case, we should be able to see this in live time. We should be able to see this.
Oh,
then.
yeah.
Why
Maybe
can't we
it
see
gives
this?
up
Why
enough.
can't we do this in the lab? We can artificially create different breeds of dogs, all sorts of different things through a form of punctuated evolution, just artificially. Why can't we do it on a more grand scale? You know, why not?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
They
So
do.
No.
One of the so, and forgive me if I get part of this wrong, but over in Europe, they have been mass producing some of the bacteria that is used to age cheese, and they're actually they've been doing this on a large scale for a long time, and now they're having problems with the viability of the offspring, and they're afraid that the bacteria that they use is actually going to go extinct. But there's other examples too where on a large scale we use that, like antibiotic research. I don't. I mean, I could be wrong about all that, but
already are bringing this in as an explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's provide an example of said explanation.
okay.
No, I won't add any more. That's good.
Okay. This next clip is really short. It's just him
And
kind
then
of
just moved on.
Remember, evolution is not a ladder. It doesn't have a goal. There's nothing in that definition that I just gave you about becoming smarter, better, faster, stronger, more complex, or anything like that. It's just about change over time. Yeah, but the change you're...
So yeah, that clip.
I mean, I had a note on this one. I mean, if you want to comment on it, I mean, that's cool.
I was just going to say natural selection and genetic mutation is, almost magical with what it is capable of doing. I mean, for one cell to become the, ancestor of all
Who's smuggling in philosophy now?
life on Earth, man.
Oh, incredulity. All right, guys, look, we're 2 hours and 10 minutes into this. We're only 42 minutes into this stream, which we didn't have to watch the whole thing. There's a cutoff point, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here for everybody, and we'll do a part 2 of this. Let's see. I'll do it tomorrow. How's that sound? Tomorrow, same time, same place. Um, I'll do a part 2 of this, and we'll talk about the rest of the video. I'll leave it right here where it's at the studio. We'll keep everything the same, so it's not going anywhere. Just a few thoughts on this before I go. So far, I mean, I I applaud the effort to go and try and refute a professional biologist who talks about and studies these things a lot. Forrest is incredibly intelligent and knows his field very, very well to the point that he teaches it to others. Forrest is a hell of a dude, for real. And so, I mean, I do applaud that you instead of just setting and making it up as you go, you're actually trying at least to talk about the things that an actual biologist is putting forth. Because many times, people who review and debate in this area purposely avoid anybody who is a professional because they know that it won't go well for them, kind of like this. That being said, I will also be covering a couple other videos from this channel. I like, I don't know, I like this kind of material, and I feel like it's if you do it at 12 Central, I will send the hive your way at the end of my show. I could do that. Let's do that. I'll set it up for 11 Eastern, and anybody over watching Bree can come over and check it out. Thanks, Bree. I appreciate that. That's a big help. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll set the stream up as soon as we leave here. I'm interested to see what else he has to say about this, but also I've got another video that I'm going to cover from this same channel. If you guys want to check out this channel, it's linked in the title, it's linked in the description. There's also a link to this original video that they're covering if you just can't wait for me to cover it. 12 Central, no, that's right. Oh, no, 12 Central is 1 o'clock Eastern. Yeah, 1300. I'm sorry, I'm not. I haven't slept in a couple days, so I'm sorry. Yes, 1300. You're right, Amber. My bad. Yes, 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I will set up the stream whenever I close out this one. Thank you. So, all that being said, though, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I so appreciate all the gifted memberships and stuff, guys. You continually surprise and shock me with the things that you do, and I appreciate the generosity, even if it was out of fun for trying to hit Tsumami. I appreciate it all the same. Thank you for everybody that watches and is a member, and everybody's a member now. But I really appreciate each and every one of you that comes and supports what I try to do here. I know that I'm not the most well-spoken or the best at this, but this video interested me, and I wanted to have a good time with it. So yeah, Dade, I'll hit you up in Discord here shortly. Until the bell rings. Okay, yeah. I always go through a little bit of intro stuff and things first, so I may get started a little bit early or whatever. But yeah, the next member stream will be good, Amber. Yeah, the member streams are all open panel, and everybody's welcome to come and talk about anything you want to. I try to do at least one a week. Sometimes I do 2 a week, but usually one. I look forward to talking with all the new members and stuff if that's what you want to do. And I hope that you guys will join me for part 2 of this tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're here and you're interested in anything to do with the Ark Encounter, there's links in the description of this video. You can also go to arkencounterprotest.com, and all the information you need is there. Hotels, times, info. Let me explain something. Saturday, Sunday, leave on Monday is the best idea. Now, you don't have to do that, but the protest is on Sunday, just so you understand. I think, though, I put all that in the thing. But, yeah, with that, I guess I'll get on out of here and let you guys go back to your day. Again, I appreciate the support, and you guys can always find me on Discord. And sorry, shoot. If you want to talk to me, you can find me on Discord or email me at theKentuckyAtheist@gmail. I answer everybody who sends me a message or email or anything. And if you want to see more stuff like this, if you like this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll make some more things where I'm reviewing stuff like this. I don't do a lot of this, but this one just hit me the right way, and I wanted to. But thank you so much for coming. Everyone have a great day. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Be good to people, and remain skeptical.